Good evening to everyone and welcome to the 4th edition of the Megalizzi-Niedzielski Prize for Aspiring Journalists. Each year, the Commission awards this prize to 2 young journalists that are showing great potential in journalism and a great attachment to the European Union and its values. With this prize, we honor the memory of Antonio Megalizzi and Bartek Niedzielski, 2 young journalists with a strong attachment to the European project, who unfortunately passed away after a terrorist attack in Strasbourg in 2018. With this prize, we cherish their memory, we cherish their work, and we cherish what they stood for. So a very special and warm thanks to the family and the friends who are here with us tonight. Buonasera, dobra wieczór, very warm welcome. Over the years, 6 journalists, young journalists I should say, have already won this prize. Last year the prize went to Irene Barahona Fernandez from Spain and Jack Ryan from Ireland. The 2020 winners were Anastasia Lopez from Austria and Francisco Cezinando from Portugal. And the 2019 winners were Karolina Simkova from Czechia and Tea Mihanovic from Croatia. Some of the former winners are with us today. A very welcome to them as well. And I'm sure that they are eager to know, as much as all of us, who will win the 2022 Megalizzi-Niedzielski Prize. So let's get to it. We have today with us 6 young journalists. They have made it to the final round of the prize. They've been selected from a group of 300 journalists across the European Union and neighboring countries. So I can proudly say that we have here a group of 6 people that are some of Europe's most promising, bright, talented young journalists. So let's have a little chat with them. Can I ask them to come to the stage? Welcome, guys. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I already apologize in advance for my pronunciation of your names. I'm sorry for that. But let's start with Ani Arveladze from Georgia. In your work, you documented the hardships people have to go through following the Russian occupation in Georgia. Can you tell us about what this meant for you as a journalist?
Thank you for the question, and hello to everybody. First of all, I want to ask the audience a question. Can you imagine one day wake up and you realize that you're not living in your country anymore because somebody just decided to steal your land from you? So that happened in Georgia in 2008, and it's still going on because of Russia's aggression. So being a journalist in such a conflict area and region is kind of tough. We suffer and go through a lot because people, they are really suffer and they are in a really, really bad situation. Not as bad as in Ukraine now, of course, but we have a huge problem there. And being a visual journalist, especially there, is kind of hard because, you take your camera and Russian troops are near the so-called border and they might think that you are having a gun and they might shoot you. And we had a couple of such cases. So yeah, it's kind of tough, but we do it and we want everybody to know what the problem has. Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing that. Is there any particular message? Is there any particular message you would like to pass to the audience here?
Yes, of course. It's a huge place to send my message to everybody that I hope soon Russia's aggression will end and we will live peacefully, and finally Georgia will be full part of European Union. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have Laura Bagnier from France. I understand, Laura, you work in Luxembourg, which is an international area, multilingual area. How's that for you?
Hello, everyone. So yeah, I've been working in Luxembourg for a year now as a web journalist. And yeah, it is a very multicultural country. Actually, roughly half of its population came from foreign countries. So at some point, it can be hard if you do not speak the languages. Luckily, I have a lot of colleagues that are speaking many languages, and I really like it because it's very stimulating. I feel like there is so many stories to tell, so many people that have come through very various life experiences, and yeah, I really love that. Also, it's very nice to be part of a group that has media in very different languages. I do write in French, but my article gets translated in Portuguese, English, and German. So yeah, that's a huge privilege.
Impressive, thank you. You wrote something about yourself that scares me, I have to say. You wrote that you are the Swiss Army knife of the internet. Should I be scared of you?
No, you shouldn't. What I meant by that is that during my studies, during my experiences, I was able to develop many various skills on the internet. So video reporting, podcast making, data journalism a bit. And so yeah, it means that I can pretty much do everything on the internet.
Thank you. Our Swiss Army knife, ladies and gentlemen. And then we go to Croatia, to Sonja Agata Biscan. I understand you are a musician, you are a lawyer, and you're an aspiring journalist. How on earth do you combine all these jobs?
Good evening, everyone. And I must admit, I was hoping for an easier question to begin with. But I would say that I guess music and writing, which I closely associate with journalism, were some of my earliest passions. They allowed me to express my feelings, my observations. And then as I was growing older, I realized that I am missing a certain tool, a tool that would allow me to actually do something about these feelings and observations. And eventually I decided that a good tool would probably be international law.
Wow, impressive. But that's not all. You also won the EU's Faces to Hearts competition, and then you traveled to Paraguay. Tell us about that.
Indeed, in 2019, the European Commission organized the Faces to Hearts contest, as you mentioned, and it selected 20 young journalists, or bloggers, as they called us, 10 from the EU and 10 from outside of the EU, and they sent us on vlogging assignments. I was sent to Paraguay for 1 month to report on EU-funded development projects. And yeah, we reported on different topics ranging from education, female empowerment, females in politics, sustainability, indigenous people, etc. So it was an incredible opportunity to be a journalist in the field for a while, and of course to receive a rewarding platform that is the EU.
Thank you. Sonja, ladies and gentlemen. And then we go to Clara Hoheitzel from Germany. You have won several prizes on writing, for your actual writing, including the Best Young Journalist Award in your region. Can you tell us here what makes a good writer?
So actually, I really like to ask questions. Normally that can be really annoying, but I'm a journalist, so I can ask a lot of questions. And that is, I think, very important, to just write about something if you really got the topic, if you really understood it. Because if the journalist doesn't understand the topic, the readers can't understand it. So maybe that's like one thing I can say, just understand the topic and then write it in a more easy way that everyone can understand it.
Thank you. And of all the stories you worked on, which of the stories you worked on has marked you the most?
Wow, that's a tough question. But maybe one story I wrote about was, I think, last summer, together with a very good friend from my university. And she's married to a man from Indonesia. And so we learned about the oil palm thing, about palm oil. And yeah, we did a kind of little investigation, and yeah, we talked with some people from there, and we talked with some scientists, and yeah, we looked in the supermarkets in Germany, where I am from, like so many products contain palm oil. Yeah, and that was a very, very interesting topic for me, because it's like so difficult, and there are so many like parties and people involved. So this was one topic I still think about, and I still want to investigate more.
Thank you. Please do. Clara, ladies and gentlemen. And then we go to Jānis Jevins from Latvia. You've been writing about the Russian war against Ukraine. That must obviously be very difficult. Can you tell us a bit more about your experience here?
Hello, thank you for having me. Maybe I should start about my background. My background in academics is in international relations, and currently I study in Russia and Eurasia studies in my master's degree. So in terms of information, there's now not so much difficulties in the sense that I have a good academic background to build my articles upon. The main difficulties are emotional. For me, as a Latvian, there is this difficulty when you read what's happening in Ukraine. This barbaric invasion has opened old wounds of my nation, of my people, that have been there since the occupation, the Soviet occupation. And also, there's a other emotional difficulty of my second identity, since I come from a ethnically mixed family. I'm a half Russian, and in my home I speak Russian. So there's this very hard, let's just say, emotion that you have to come in terms with, that a nation that you have cultural, language, and religious ties, that is committing such barbaric acts.
Thank you. No, thank you very much for sharing that. A question linked to that. In order to be able to work in such difficult situations, what's the tools that you need as a journalist?
In this conflict in particular, if we talk about it, first thing is, of course, skills on language, because it gives you another perspective. And for example, you can read sources in Russian, not just English. And others, which comes with that warfare in 21st century, it's not just conventional, it also happens in an informational space. You have to have a lot of time, a lot of patience to analyze different sources, compare them, to get your information straight, to triple check it, not just double check it, triple check. And it's a bit of a source of anxiety, let's just say. Thank you.
Jānis. And then last but not least, we have Rahel Schuchart from Germany. I understand that you do a lot of work. One of the many things that you do is co-chairing a working group on the EU at the Heinrich Böll Foundation. So tell us, what do you do?
So hello, good evening. It's really nice to be here. So currently I'm still a student of European Studies, which means for me a lot of European history, a lot of European politics and French. And so besides that, I am writing a blog in German and in French about my studies program, but it's really nice because actually I'm my own chef and I can write on many topics that concern both German and also French students. And yeah, with the Heinrich Böll Stiftung, so in Germany, each political party has its own association, which gives sometimes scholarships to students. And so I have a scholarship there, and I co-chair this group that you just mentioned. And it's really interesting because we evaluate, I don't know, hotly debated EU topics from a scientific point of view and discuss about it. We invite I don't know, members from parliament, but also journalists. And it's really nice to get this really critical point of view on EU topics.
Mm. Thank you. I also read that you have a passion for photography, and we noticed that you have a strong focus on portraits, very beautiful portraits, by the way. Where does this passion come from?
Well, I think I've always been a people's person, so I think I'm good with people. I think I have to be. I mean, I'm a journalist, but at the same time, what I really like about it is when you have a person in front of your lens, you have to engage with that person, and you have to find a connection with your object, so with the person in front of the lens, in order to make a portrait that is really portraying that person. So I don't know if you know, for example, the portraits that were made of Angela Merkel during 30 years. They're really, really famous, and I think they're not famous because they're really, really good photos with a good light, with a good exposure, but because the person that took them, she really engaged with the person. They had a connection over the years that was also built in this setting. So I think that's why I love it so much.
Thank you. Rahel. Allow me to say that I find it really impressive what you guys are doing. You should all start working for the Commission, all right? Okay. Today's prize is a very important prize. And this is why we have also some very important people with us. So I would very much like to invite first Commissioner Ferreira on stage. Commissioner Ferreira is the Commissioner in charge of cohesion policy and reforms. Please, Commissioner, I believe
Well, thank you very much. And I'm really impressed with such young people, with so much to tell, with such strong experiences in their lives. And I would like really to start this session in a way by welcoming the families of those two other young journalists whose life and whose profession we are celebrating today. So Antonio Megalizzi and Bartek Niedzielski. And I think this is the best possible way for us to honor their memory. Also, I cannot avoid to mention something that some of you have already mentioned today as well. In fact, this terrible war, this terrible invasion, has reminded us once more of the importance of journalism and journalists, and the importance of a free press. We don't need more words. We just look at the images and we see what is happening to understand this. Journalists, in fact, they are essential. They are an essential part of our democracy. Without free journalism, democracy cannot work. They inform the public. They shed light on things that autocrats want desperately to hide. And you just referred to this as well. But we cannot take neither democracy nor free press for granted, not at all. Nearly a month ago, the European Commission adopted the European Media Freedom Act, which will protect media pluralism. This is a permanent fight from our side, and a very important media independence in the European Union. This law, it was just for time being a proposal from the Commission, if approved by Parliament and Council, will protect against political interference, against spying, and ensure stable funding for the press. There will also be a European watchdog to make sure that media freedom is respected. We are also taking other steps to support the press. For example, we recently launched the European Newsroom, an EU-funded cooperation project between news agencies from all over Europe that will provide journalists with training, further education, and joint development of journalistic standards, as well as other measures to uphold quality journalism. European Newsroom will also welcome partners from the neighborhood of the European Union, including Ukraine. A reminder that our European values do not stop at borders. So we, in cohesion policy, are also doing our part. Today, I have the honor to announce, and you already introduced it, to announce the 6th call for proposals for reporting about cohesion policy. We have done this for the last 5 years, supporting nearly 125 beneficiaries, so journalists, young journalists across Europe. Media organizations also receive this support, universities, communication agencies, and others. Although we provide support, one of our core principles is that the beneficiary has complete editorial independence. They don't have to praise cohesion policy. They have to have an interest on it and to develop their own research. This year, we will invest 7 million euros in supporting communication actions. So, be it press articles, videos, physical or online events, radio coverage, TV shows, social media, or anything else, something important, informative, creative. We will cover 80% of the cost of the project, which runs up to 300,000 euros. The deadline for applications, this is important, is the 16th of January, 2023, so the beginning of next year. More details are available, of course, in the regional policy website of the European Commission. Jürgen Klopp, the famous football manager, and look at me quoting a football manager, but I think he said something extremely interesting. He said that the European Union is not perfect, but it's the best idea we have had so far. So I think he's kind of mirroring some other already famous sentence from another politician, but having been said by someone from the sports field, I think it gains another flavor. So these words struck, in fact, a chord with me. And the European Union is the best thing we have had in Europe, and we must really cherish it. But it is not beyond criticism, of course. In fact, it is our duty always to try to do better. And this is, I believe, that this captures a small part of the journalistic philosophy of Antonio and Bartek. They were young journalists, as many of you today. Their enthusiasm was contagious, and they left us a legacy of support for the European Union and for European values, while at the same time pushing Europe to do better, all the time to do better. Today we honor their memory, we honor their inspiration and their energy, we honor their responsible reporting on the European project, and we honor their families and friends, with particular thanks to those who have been able to join us today in the audience. Thank you very much once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. May I now invite Mr. Omarjee, who is MEP and Chair of the Parliamentary Committee on Regional Development, to join us, please.
Très bien. Je voudrais tout d'abord
First of all, I would like to just say that I'm very, very pleased to have Lisa Ferreira next to me here to participate in this award ceremony. First of all, I want to, of course, think about Antonio and Bartek. who have absolutely raised the bar for journalists. They pay the price. And we have emotive thoughts for them and their family. We are now in a moment in Europe where we understand more than ever the value and indeed the duty that falls upon journalists to report the truth of facts. The rule of law and democracy are questioned today by the propagation of fake news and false information. The value of journalism lies within its ability to tell the truth, to not be at the mercy of any institution or propaganda, but to serve truth. That is what distinguishes the European model, European democracy, from other models today that now are fighting against us. Your profession is a profession that has a very high level of public has a very high public role. I'm sure you're aware of that. You are serving a very important cause, a cause that is above you and that you aspire towards. The European project is also facing populism across Europe. And populists propagate information that hinders the implementation of European policies on the ground. You put this very well, Ms. Commissioner. In the work of verification that is upon you, working towards truth, all of that entails ensuring that European policies are brought to bear, our regional policies are brought to bear, policies that are very visible, given the fact that they are implemented on the ground, benefiting European citizens directly. I know that among you, some of you have committed yourselves to research. That is part of journalism. A journalist of great prestige is one that is very demanding. You have to be demanding with us too. Demanding in the reports that you write on Europe. Because when it comes to democracy, when it comes to rule of law, we develop when truth is at the fore. And we cannot fear truth in Europe. So we're very, very happy, the Commissioner and myself, to award you this prize. And to finish up, I will once again spare a thought for the family of Antonio and Bartek. Their names are now eternally associated with our Commission and the European Parliament with the tribute that we're making to them now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Omarjee. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you have all been waiting for. Who of these 6 bright, great, fantastic young journalists will win the 2022 Megalizzi-Niedzielski prize? They don't know it yet. You don't know it yet. I don't know it yet. but the Commissioner and Mr. Omarjee, they know. So may I invite you both to come over and award the prize to the two winners of this year's prize.
Well, the moment has arrived, but before announcing the first prize, allow me to congratulate all of you and all those who presented themselves for this award, because all of you, you represent European values, you represent a lot of young talent, and so congratulations to all of you. And now, I think the jury had a lot of trouble to find, to select a winner, but they had to. And now it's my pleasure, and please join me in applauding the first winner. The first winner from Georgia is Ani Arveladas.
Did not expect it. Was a surprise. Thank you.
Well done, well done.
Je suis très heureux à présent.
I'm very happy to present
le deuxième prix
the second prize to a French woman, Laura Bagnier. Congratulations. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, ladies. Normally, journalists ask me difficult questions as spokesperson. Now, this is my moment of revenge. I'm going to ask difficult questions to the two winners. No, but first of all, congratulations. You have won the Megalizzi-Niedzielski prize, which is named after two great journalists that were very enthusiastic about their work, very enthusiastic about the European project. So the very first question is, how do you feel?
It's kind of so excited. I'm so excited that I can't find words how to say thank you, and it feels awesome to be a winner. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel so emotional as well. I'm very, very thankful that this program exists, that we could meet all journalists from all over Europe, and I feel like I grew so much as a person meeting them, and as a journalist as well, sharing good practices, sharing ideas, and yeah, I'm very, very grateful for that.
Brilliant. So now you are two celebrated journalists. You have in front of you a very wide EU audience. You have with us here Commissioner Ferreira and the chairman of the European Parliamentary Committee. Now is the moment to pass a message that you absolutely wanted to pass. What would you like them to know?
It's kind of hard. I feel like as a young journalist, as a young woman, starting this career path isn't always easy. And yeah, especially as a woman, I feel like you have to prove yourself twice as much as men to be a journalist and to be taken seriously by people, by elected officials in the newsroom. And what I think is this program shows that there are so many young women, so many talented journalists that I'm really proud to be among them tonight. And yeah, I wish that there would be as many women on the decision-making process in the newsrooms, because there aren't. And I feel like our job as journalists is also to give more space to women in the media, because men make for most of the space right now, and they have been holding the mic for too long, and it's time that we take that.
Hear, hear.
I think I already told my message and it was clear, and now I want to say just thank you for such an opportunity, because this project is really, really important for people, not only in Europe, but outside the Europe, and thank you for giving us such an opportunity. And I want to say to everybody all around the world, young journalists, take part in it, get it, and you will have a big joy. Thank you.
Part of the prize is that you will get a photo camera, which I think is useful for a journalist, but also for the fact that you will do a rail trip across Europe next year. It's also part of the prize. And so the question then is, what do you hope to discover during this trip across Europe?
Okay. I mean, I had the chance to go, to travel a bit across Europe, but not to many countries, so hopefully I feel like there is a lot to learn, there is a lot to discover, and there are a lot of stories to tell. So yeah, that's a big surprise, and that's a big luck as a journalist. Often my friends tell me that my job is very cool, because I get to meet people and go to events and write about it, and I feel lucky to be able to do that, so yeah.
Thank you.
Question was what I'll do with my camera?
Yes, while you make a trip through Europe.
Okay, I'll be honest, first of all, I'll try all the food. Because I love Belgian waffles, and it was good, yes. And second of all, yes, of course, as a journalist, I'll try to find the stories that hasn't been told yet, and I'll try to say it to you, to Europe. Yep.
Thank you. And the last question I wanted to ask you, Irene, who was one of last year's winner, she said that she wanted to give, as a journalist, she wanted to give more visibility to local stories. What is it that you guys would like to achieve as journalists?
I feel like I want to address real people, people's real concerns, what they think and what they want to know, because sometimes I feel like elected officials or even media are very far from what they want to know. And earlier this week we've been talking about solution journalism, which I think is a very nice way to address these concerns and to make a difference, maybe a positive difference, because sometimes news can be very depressing and very sad. And of course, we have to talk about important events, sad events, depressing events. But it's also nice to shift the focus on what is happening that is good, and the nice projects that actually make a difference. And yeah.
Thank you.
For me, Pulitzer Prize and Emmy Awards would be, kind of big achievement, but it's hard to say what I want to achieve as a journalist, because being a journalist means to work every day and do and research and so on. There is no top that I want to achieve, but reporting about my local stories, about Georgia until we became EU and after we became, hopefully, yeah, I think it's what I want to do, not to achieve, but to do all my life. Yep.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the 4th edition of the Megalizzi-Niedzielski Award ceremony. But before we all go back home and return to our lives, let's not forget one simple truth that was stressed by Mr. Omarjee and the Commissioner, and that's the fact that journalism, independent journalism, the kind of journalism that Bartek Niedzielski and Antonio Megalizzi stood for, are a pillar of our democracies. Without independent journalism, no democracies. So we're very grateful to the young people, all the young people behind me, to Annie, Laura, Sonia, Clara, Yanis and Rahel, but also to the journalists here in the room and to the journalists that are following this ceremony through streaming for all the absolutely crucial work that you're doing. So may today's award also be a tribute to all of you. Thanks again to the winners. Thank you very much to the Commissioner and to Mr. Omarjee for their steadfast support. Thanks to all of you, and now have a great evening. Thank you.